Are you an investigative professional? Did you know you can find the best private investigator resources using investigatorstoolbox.com? This resource community was built exclusively for licensed investigators and investigative professionals. You can network directly with members, educate yourself through free webinars and blogs, and even create your own customizable research library. Membership starts for as little as 49 cents a day. Download the Investigator's Toolbox app or visit our webpage at www.investigators-toolbox.com.
I want to talk to everybody today about ScopeNow.com. ScopeNow has been a big-time sponsor of this program for quite some time, and I just love their service. I've been using them since the beginning. I'm one of their beta customers, and it's been so awesome to see them grow into the business that they are today, and just how they just keep reinventing themselves and pushing themselves to get more and more information. What it comes down to is ScopeNow is a tool that you definitely need to use if you do social media investigations, any internet research, and really spending less time digging around and looking for information. I think is one of the best points of how ScopeNow can help you. Their AI platform, their analytics are amazing. You really get an idea of what you need. You're reducing the time, you're reducing the manpower that you're spending on doing this research, because they're essentially doing it for you, and they're doing it correctly, which is most important. One of the new things that they're actually offering is this flagging system where you can flag behaviors and really highlight and look out for fraud. If you're doing a lot of fraud research, this is a fantastic tool, and you can set up alerts. So you have particular people that you're looking at, you can actually set up alerts to get notifications when the criteria that you set up is actually is flagged and goes off. It's really, really amazing. And their relationship and association analytics are top notch, really cutting edge and really, really cool. When they brought that out on version 3, it was a game changer. I mean, really being able to see how people interact together and having that relationship, analysis is really, really something that's cool. One of the other things about being involved with ScopeNow is their ability to offer webinars. Their team is cutting edge on putting together and getting out really, really great content. If you're a member of ScopeNow, if you know who they are, you've seen them around on LinkedIn, you'll know that they're constantly doing webinars on these new websites that are coming out, and they're really staying on top of it. And don't forget, any reports that you generate, you can actually white label those reports and put your own logos on and really make them look professional, which could equate to more billing for you as well. So check them out today. It's www.scopenow.com. They're a great, great company. They should be one of the tools in your toolbox, along with whatever kind of search engines you do. You need to make sure that ScopeNow is a part of that suite. Scopenow.com.
Is a good case management system keeping you from taking your business to the next level? Crosstracks is the premier case management system for the investigative community. They're the only SOC 2 certified case management software available. Visit crosstracks.com, tell them you're a listener, and save even more. Get a plan in place for the new year to grow your business to the next level.
Welcome to PI Perspectives. We have a great show today. Bree Jones from Redline Forensics joins us to discuss how animations are used for litigation. This is a great tool that investigators can recommend for use on big cases. Bree is also a great resource for video enhancements. Let's jump right in with Bree Jones and your host, private investigator Matt Spaier.
And welcome everybody to this week's edition of PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. Today I have the huge honor of welcoming Bree Jones to the program. Bree, how are you?
I'm doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for coming on. Redline Forensic Studios is the company that you work with, and you guys do some really neat stuff. And I wanted to have you on and just highlight all the different things and let the folks know out there that there's these types of services. As an investigator, I can't tell you the amount of times I get calls on videos where they're looking to blow up and get license plate numbers and all this other stuff. Yes. And it's a challenge, but companies like yours do that kind of stuff. So tell me a little bit about you, your background, and the company itself.
Yeah. So I've been with Redline Forensic Studios and Delta V for, goodness, going on 5 years. Okay. It'll be 5 years in August. I started as a project manager for Redline, and then I moved up to studio manager about a year ago.
So what's your background like before you started working for them? What did you go to school for, or what got you into doing this stuff?
Yeah, so I was a communications major, and I focused in broadcast journalism. So my journey is pretty interesting. Right after college, I actually worked for a local news station here in Charlotte, and I was an editor and a producer on a morning show.
Okay.
And at the time I thought, I'm going to be in local news and that's going to be, my career. I spent about 3 years in that industry and discovered, not so much.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to marketing and communications. I worked for a scent marketing company for several years, which was really cool and enlightening. And then I found the opportunity with Redline and Delta V. And now I'm in a position where I get to lead the creative team and help build the brand and expand our influence on the industry. So
sure. What's the difference between Redline and Delta V? Can you break it down for people?
Yeah, absolutely. So Delta V is a forensic engineering firm. So the engineers there, they're mechanical engineers. They go out and get the data. They do analysis. And then Redline, we are the digital media group. So we actually take that data and then we create visualizations, which are used in mediation and trial to really help explain the complex scientific ideas in very approachable ways, right? Gotcha. So seeing is kind of believing. You can have an experienced engineer up on the stand and testifying, and Delta V does that all the time, and they're brilliant at it. But the great thing about visualizations is it really helps to kind of nail home the point. Like, this is literally what happened, and you can see it. And it helps jurors just make a better informed decision.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you want to take it a step further, right? The whole thing of like seeing somebody in person, right? When you're interviewing somebody like via Zoom, as opposed to just doing a phone conversation, just having that in person or on visual experience, it adds so much, right? It's one of our senses, right? that we
Absolutely.
don't have to turn off. So I can totally see that that being a thing that actually adds value. Yeah. So Delta, do they cover all around the country, or are they specific just to the North Carolina area?
Yeah, Delta V, the engineering offices, there's a location in Nashville, here in Charlotte, North Carolina, Atlanta, Georgia, and Denver, Colorado.
Wow. Okay.
So yeah, mainly in the Southeast, but looking to expand and grow our imprint. The great thing about Redline is, we're digital, right? Yeah. So we work with clients all over the country.
Yeah. And I had my first interaction with you probably maybe a year or so ago.
Yeah.
And I'd post on one of the message boards like, hey, I got a video and you're trying to blow it up or look at some sort of image or something. Right. And everybody, I mean, I got so many responses. I think it was the NCISS or the NALI board. Call Bree Jones. Okay. Who is this Bree person? What is this Redline?
Right.
And I got to say, what I really appreciated about it is you couldn't help me, but you tried to help me. Right?
Oh, yeah.
And it was like one of those things like, okay, well, we'll take a stab at it and see what we can do. And it was, I knew very early on, that it wasn't going to be anything. And it's so unfortunate in these cases because these are all motor vehicle cases. It's all, someone's usually dead or really, really injured. And, it's like, oh, well, we got the smoking gun, we got the video, and we're going to get our justice. We're going to figure out who it was. And it's like, okay, I need to see the letters on the side of the 18-wheeler that just ran my guy over. And it's like, sorry, the vehicle's going 40 something miles an hour. We can't figure it out.
Yeah. No, we're always eager to help, right? Eager to review the video and see what we can do. And we're just honest. If the video data is not there, it's not there. I think a lot of times clients think that, there's a button that you can press that says enhance, and then everything just becomes crystal clear, kind of like on CSI. I think CSI has spoiled all of us.
TV shows kill everything.
Yeah. So, sometimes, quite frankly, again, the video data is not there. But when it is, it's amazing. And we're able to, really help an investigation, which is rewarding for us, for sure.
It's really a game changer. Like I said, like these cases are usually big ticket items. They're big things, that potentially liability wise are huge. And if you can connect those dots, a video says 1,000 words, just in images, right? I had a case I worked on many, many years ago. I mean, this is before I even started my business, where they were these guys that were protesting, and there's a question whether or not they had a permit or the right to protest, and the police didn't like the fact that they were there, and they're making too much noise, and they told them to beat it, and they didn't leave. And these guys beat the tar, the cops beat the tar out of these guys.
Oh man!
And there had been a salsa concert that was taking place, and there were a lot of people that had video cameras with them. Now I'm talking, this was in the mid 90s. So it wasn't your pocket digital. It was hey, I got something on my shoulder, or got something.
The Zach Morris. Yeah.
Exactly. Right. So we had all these independent videos of these poor folks getting tuned up by the police. And it was interesting because like I said, I wasn't in business yet. I was working for an attorney, and it was my job to play that video over and over and over again during a 3-week trial. And what was really interesting on it is there weren't heavy injuries. The worst injury was a fractured nose, right? And it was all civil rights and false imprisonment and all this other stuff. And that video was so impactful. And I didn't know you at the time, but I had used somebody to clean it up and slow it down and really pinpoint what we needed to do. And it was such a game changer in making that impression. And it was an $81 million verdict for 8 people. Yeah. It was set aside and turned over, as it should have been. It was excessive. But it was so interesting to be a part of that and seeing how video has that. And now it's not just video, it's animation. So tell me a little bit about all that and how that works.
Yeah. So animation, I would say, is definitely our premier service line, for sure. We really enjoy, again, taking recon data and turning it into basically an event recreation to really show, whether it's a mediation audience or a jury, exactly what happened. Our animations are technically sound. We use drone data, scan data, so the accuracy is there. And yeah, we just really feel like it's the most powerful tool that anyone can leverage in their case, because you literally take the viewer, the audience into the scene. A lot of times we take the viewer into the driver's seat, right? This is what it looks like in the passenger vehicle when they were approaching a tractor trailer. And that's just like super, super important when you're really trying to communicate these complex ideas to people, and you're really trying to communicate the sequence of events. I mean, again, you could talk about it and you could put up, diagrams all day, but it's the visuals and the moving images that are really going to captivate people and really tell that story in a really compelling way.
Yeah, our brains are mush. It's like everybody we need to see things. It's just, the nature of all this technology that we're getting blitzed with.
Absolutely.
There's real truth to it, right? So if somebody's serving on a jury, and that's really what you're thinking about, right? How are you going to captivate and keep this person interested in understanding everything that happened and making a fair and balanced opinion, right?
Yeah.
Maybe a visual will sway somebody's opinion on things because that's just the way their mind works, right? They need to see it and not imagine it, right?
Seeing is believing.
Yeah.
Seeing is believing. And again, I mean, we take pride in this. I mean, everything that we do is admissible, right? Because it's based on the facts. We're using the data from the engineers. And again, we're just really laying it out there. So it's crystal clear to anyone who's watching. Right. This is what happened. Yeah.
And there's no paid actor disclaimer on the bottom of your video when it's running, right?
No. No.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, such a cool tool. And I think as investigators, sometimes we don't realize that these tools are out there. And,
Yeah.
you know, I encourage folks that are running their own business, that deal with attorneys, you know, to consider this as one of the tools that they can offer. I'm sure you get plenty of work from investigators, right?
Yeah. Usually, when we work with investigators, it is video cleanup and enhancement. I mean, typically it's like you mentioned before, hey, this license plate is blurry. Can you make it out? We've worked on cases where, you know, hey, there's a shooting that was caught on camera. There's this incident caught on camera. We want to bring out all the details so we can see all the key players and really hone in on what they're doing when. But occasionally, yeah, an investigator will say, you know what? I see the power in an animation. Let me get you all of the pertinent information and all the details, and let's put this together, you know, chronologically. Let's put this together so we can recreate the event. And again, just show people what happened. I think investigators realize it's a super powerful tool. Of course, not every case warrants an animation, but when one does, you know, you leverage that and it works to your advantage.
Mm-hmm. So is this something where your product is typically only viewed at trial, or is it something maybe that an attorney will produce and give over to an adjuster or something like that and say, hey, this is what we're going with here, and we feel pretty strongly about this stuff? Have you ever seen that happen, or is it more just during trial?
Absolutely. I mean, there's a few different venues for animations, and it really kind of depends on the case and where the case is and litigation. Many times our clients will use our animations in mediations, you know, because they're looking to settle, right? And they really just want to say, you know what, again, here are the basic facts. We're going to watch it. We're going to play it through. We're going to show it from the driver's view, from this angle. Let's talk about this, you know,
Sure.
let's get a negotiation going. Sometimes even it's before the mediation process. We want to be able to visualize our data and visualize the facts of the case, so we are all on the same page and we kind of know what's next, right?
Okay.
What do we do now that we've literally seen everything? So it's a powerful tool and it can be used in many different scenarios, for sure.
So when you're talking about data points and using drones and things like that, do you go with eyewitness testimony as well, statements?
Oh, absolutely. We rely heavily on the drone and the scan data for sure, but a lot of times we will incorporate witness statements, right? And that's, again, very powerful. I mean, you have someone who is there or who was there at the incident, who knows what happens.
Sure.
It's good to you know, bring their perspective to the table, and many times that is appropriate. Yeah, so we'll incorporate that as well.
Right. So do you usually show like different versions or maybe different angles on a particular production, or is it just here's the one thing we're going with, and like what does that look like? Yeah,
we definitely we try to be as dynamic as possible. And it's really good to be able to incorporate a few different views. Typically, we start off with like an overhead view to just kind of orient the viewer. You know, this is the scene, right? Get everybody kind of settled in on that. And then, yeah, a lot of times we will take people into the vehicle so they can see what the driver saw. If there's a pedestrian involved, we'll literally show a camera angle so that the viewer, you know, feels like they're the pedestrian walking across the street. With the technology that we use, we can really execute any angle. It's really about choosing the best angle to tell the story in a succinct way, right? Because we could get super crazy, but we really, you know, there's a goal in mind. And a lot of times what we do when we're planning out an animation is we actually storyboard. So some of your viewers, I'm sure they're familiar with Pixar and
that's
right, DreamWorks. So we really are getting into literally mapping out our shots before we even start the production process. And what that allows us to do is to kind of bring that storyboard to all the stakeholders, right? The engineer, the attorney, the adjuster, everybody. And let's say, this is the story. this is how we believe we should tell the story. This is how this is really going to help your case. And here are the various camera angles that we want to use to execute and achieve that goal.
Do you use like Buzz Lightyear and Woody as placeholders?
We don't.
That could be embarrassing if you leave it in there by accident.
Yeah, can you imagine?
Oops.
Yeah, like, wait a minute. But yeah, no, storyboarding is really powerful.
That's awesome.
Again, it literally kind of sets the stage for what's to come after.
Yeah. So like when you go out to the scene there, is it one of these things where you're using like laser measurements and you're doing a whole grid system to get everything like pinpointed?
Yeah. So the engineers at Delta V, they are thorough investigators themselves. They do use drones. They use laser scan data, or laser scanners rather. And the laser scanners, I believe, get down to like millimeter accuracy, like super, super detailed. They also use GPS devices as well. Obviously, they take loads and loads of pictures. And we're actually able to take all of those images and data, and then we're able to literally recreate the environment, create accurate models of the vehicles involved. And if there's some pedestrians involved as well, we rely really heavily on photos and information from the accident reports.
Wow.
So yeah, that technology that the engineers use out in the field really enable us on the creative side to create the visualization that's super accurate and compelling, and again, tells the story.
Yeah, it's really cool. I think we're going to jump out and take a break real quick, but when we come back, I want to hear more about this. This is really fascinating, and just the whole process of how this all comes together. And, maybe we can go into some examples and things like that. So everybody sit tight and we'll be right back.
The creative professionals of Redline Forensics Studios come to work every day with one goal in mind: to create credible and compelling visuals that help you win tough cases. Redline services, such as video enhancement and animation, are the critical assets you need to leverage your case. Visit the website today at redlineforensic.studio. That's redlineforensic.studio. NCISS Hit the Hill is coming. This year, the event will be virtual. Are you interested in learning how to reach out to your senators and congressmen or women? Join this virtual event on May 16th and 17th. Visit nciss.org to learn more. Get involved in the future of our industry today. Check out the PI Institute of Education at piinstitute.com. Since 1989, Kelly Riddle has been teaching on subjects such as surveillance, nursing home investigations, insurance fraud, domestic investigations, hidden assets, and accident scene investigations. The PI Institute of Education is a featured learning partner in the investigatorstoolbox.com. So check out the free content on the site, then visit the Institute for more great savings on additional classes. Check out the latest issue of PI Magazine, available online or via hard copy. Visit pimagazine.com to learn more.
And welcome back to PI Perspectives. This is Matt Spaier, your host. We are here today with Bree Jones. Bree, welcome back to the program.
Thank you. Happy to be back.
Yeah. Redline Forensics Studios and Delta V. We're talking about animations. We're talking about video, and just helping people understand that this technology out there, what it can do, and what it's all about. So let's talk about some examples recently. And I know you, when we were on break, you said there were a couple that came to mind. So let's talk about some of the victories that you guys had recently.
Yeah, so we had the privilege of producing an animation and a narrative video for a client of ours, a plaintiff attorney. The case involved a passenger vehicle and a tractor trailer, and then also a lumber yard. In the lumber yard, there were some employees at the lumber yard that were kind of parking illegally. So when the tractor trailer was trying to make the left turn, really couldn't see oncoming traffic because of where the cars were parked.
Right.
And this passenger vehicle that had a family was traveling down the road, observing the speed limit. The tractor trailer, was making that left turn, and unfortunately, they collided. And one of the young ladies that was in the passenger vehicle suffered several injuries. And our visualization, we kind of highlighted, okay, the passenger vehicle is observing the speed limit. That's great. The tractor trailer, they're easing out. They're trying to see oncoming traffic, but it's really, really difficult because, again, these cars are kind of illegally parked in front of this lumber yard.
Right.
So we took viewers, literally, we did like a fly-through shot where viewers could see the scene and every single visual obstruction that was there, whether it was the lumber itself, these vehicles that are kind of almost in the roadway.
Right.
So we showed all of that, and then we cut to a shot inside of the tractor trailer, and the viewer could literally see, how difficult it is to actually see.
You guys are editing and creating content. That's fantastic.
Yeah, because that's what happened, and the tractor trailer, he's inching out and he thinks he's in the clear, and then he actually, goes for it, and then unfortunately they collide. So we were able to show all of that.
Right.
And then another really powerful tool, we had the accident reconstruction expert actually appear on camera and really talk through the facts of the case. And then we kind of stitched in images from our animation to really, again, tell the story. We even incorporated, you talked about this earlier, but we incorporated witness statements, and we incorporated even statements from employees at the lumber yard, where even the employees complained, like, I wish my fellow coworkers wouldn't, park so close to the road. It's difficult to see.
Right.
So we used all of those assets and we packaged it together. And then our client, the plaintiff attorney, was able to use that video in mediation, and he was able to settle for his client. It was
That's amazing.
Success.
Your television background is coming to light here, right? This is like a mini 2020.
Yeah, that inner producer. Yeah.
Where's Barbara Walters, for crying out loud? That's really cool.
Yeah, but that kind of storytelling, it really resonates with people, Again, people, they can really, really understand and appreciate everything that's happened in the incident. And then they, really empathize, right? They empathize with that passenger vehicle driver that, again, was just observing the traffic laws and minding their business. And then this tragic, accident happens and it changes their entire life. People really connect with that, especially when they can see that for themselves.
Yeah, the visual aspect of that, I can totally see that, being something that really goes a long way.
Absolutely.
Was there ever a case or something that kind of surprised you, that you worked on, where you're like, wow, okay, I didn't expect that to happen that way, but apparently it did?
Yeah.
If you can talk about it.
For
if you
sure,
can't, don't
yeah.
worry about it.
Yeah, definitely. Each case is a little different. And certainly when I first joined the company and I was completely new to the industry, I had to adjust to the fact that, there's some sensitive images that you're going to see, especially when you look at all the file material that comes from not only the accident reconstruction expert and the investigators, but law enforcement, right? The first responders, they're on scene. They have to take all of the pictures of everything, no matter how gruesome it can be.
Oh man,
that was
I've seen
quite the
things.
adjustment.
Yeah. I've seen some things. I'm like, man, I wish I didn't watch that.
Yeah,
one of the more interesting things, I'm of a certain age, we don't need to get into, but there was a time when folks, like, there was no digital, right? So folks were using regular cameras, and I found a lot of law enforcement weren't really trained on, what f-stop was and all this stuff. So
Right.
you'd have these nighttime accidents, and they go out with their camera and they're taking photos, and you get the images and it's just gray.
Yeah.
like nothing. You're like, oh man, that sucks.
Yeah.
But,
It's like, where's the white balance? Yeah.
yeah. Now everything's ISO instead, right? So it's completely different, and it's a little more forgiving. But it's so interesting because I think animation probably takes the same angle. In fact, I know it does, is telling stories, right? So the man who trained me how to do photography always said, context, have your photos tell a story. If you're having a jury look at something, don't go all over the place with how you're taking your photos. Like, follow a structure, plaintiff view, defendant view, 360-degree view of the area, any video cameras, witness vantage point, things like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like the animation probably follows the same narrative, right? You've got that idea where you want to tell a story, and now look, you can put video in and statements and do all this other crazy stuff. It's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, at the end of the day, again, you want your viewer to understand everything, right? But you don't want to overwhelm, right? And you want to take the guesswork out of anything or everything, really. You just want to put it in front of them and let them absorb it and make the best decision. And yeah, again, you could use all the photos and all the different camera angles, but there really is a technique involved when it comes to choosing the right shots at the right time and having the right frame up for the right amount of time. I mean, that literally is storytelling.
I'm sure there's a science to it. I mean, you got to be careful not to make it look like a Quentin Tarantino movie either, right?
Yeah, it's like you don't want to be too cinematic, right?
Yeah,
because these are real people and real events. But the cool thing is, when we want to get cinematic, we can do marketing content and we can put it up on YouTube. But
there you go, right? Get it out of your system.
Get it out of your system now. But yeah, you always want to be just hyper aware of your audience at every turn.
So what's the typical turnaround time on this when you get hired to do something to actual doing, getting the production out there? Like, when should someone be calling you to do this?
Yeah, so it's a process. I would say, certainly a plaintiff attorney or even a defense attorney, if they know they're going into mediation and they really want to make a point during that settlement negotiation, get your ducks in a row. And it's a great time to get a team like ours involved. The actual animation production process itself, it varies, it depends on the data that we're working with. And of course, we collaborate with the experts. So we want to make sure the analysis is fully executed and nailed down. Right. But yeah, it could take anywhere from a few weeks to, a month and a half. It really just kind of depends on the scope of work and project. Right. But the great thing about my team, we're dedicated to, keeping everybody in the loop every step of the way. Every time we hit a milestone, we bring again all the stakeholders in just to make sure we're still on the same page. And the biggest thing for us is, again, our animations are technically sound. I mean, that's what we hang our hat on. So we always want to make sure that if there's being, changes being made to the analysis on the expert side, we just want to make sure that that's reflected in our visualization. So it's a collaborative process, a lot of back and forth. But at the end of the day, once it's done, and then the attorney client gets to leverage it at mediation or in trial, and then they get a win, we're happy.
Right.
Yeah.
So I would say, like, a question actually I had, how long is each particular video?
That varies too. Typically, I would say you're looking at probably a couple of minutes. You definitely want to, again, get that first shot, where you kind of set the scene with the aerial view. A lot of times you do want to take people into either the vehicles, literally so they can get that driver perspective. And then we do like to incorporate pertinent information like speed and perception response time and braking, right? So you'll see some pauses and different things. So you're looking at, probably anywhere from a minute to 3 minutes, just kind of depending on the project.
Right. Now, do you do animations for like med mal cases and like body parts and showing where things are done too, or is it more just accident type stuff?
Love to. We are certainly poised to do that, especially when we think about Delta V, our sister company, as they look to expand their biomechanical department and biomechanical engineering department. We look forward to being able to produce some of those medical illustrations, if you will.
Yep.
Our bread and butter right now, by and large, is accident reconstruction animations.
Sure.
But really, because we are taking data and pertinent information to create visualizations, we can animate anything. Right. I mean, it could be a workplace injury. It could be, medical malpractice. It could be kind of a crime scene recreation. I mean, we could literally do anything. We have the talent and the technology to literally animate anything.
So do you ever do with 3D stuff or no?
Oh, yeah. I mean, our animations mostly are 3D animations for sure, especially when you talk
the glasses to the jury.
Yeah.
Make sure they give them back.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Don't take those home. No, most of our animations are actually 3D animations, especially when you talk about putting someone in the driver's seat so they can see that driver's view. All of that is 3D.
So here's the next generation. You got to go 4D and start having like wind and
wind and
water
aroma and scent. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, it's in the works. We're working on that.
That's the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
So somebody patent that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for sure. Mm-hmm.
So what would you suggest to the everyday investigator who gets a phone call from an attorney saying, hey, do you know an expert or we have this really big accident that we want you to work on? Like, I always preach like, know all the tools that are out there and upsell whenever you can. So how would you suggest the everyday investigator approach this to keep it in the back of their head?
Yeah, I would definitely say, align yourself with an expert, someone who can get out to the scene and really thoroughly collect all of the data, right? Because that's going to just, again, make the visualization, if it gets to an animation, it's going to make that even more sound technically. So align yourself with a very capable expert.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would also say it's okay if you don't know exactly what you want in an animation. A lot of times, investigators or attorneys or experts, they have an idea, right? Because they know the facts of the case. But really, a team like ours, Redline Forensic Studios, we really are there to help tell your story or tell your client's story. Yeah. So once you have all the information, you can feel pretty good about giving it over to our team. And again, we'll work together to iron out all the details and get that product that's really, really going to help in the end.
So that's one thing you touched on a good point here, and I'll hammer it home for you. Like as an investigator, knowing how to do those measurements and knowing how to do those things, right? Because a lot of times the attorney will call you up and they'll say, okay, I just picked this case up, or go sign this case up and do all the site work on it. It's crazy. Like knowing what an engineer or an animator may need going forward as you go out to the site, you're going to save the attorney a lot of money. You're probably going to make yourself more money because you're spending more time out there doing things. And it's a better work product, right? So whenever I have these big cases, I always try and go in and approach it like an engineer. Now, I'm not an engineer. I can't testify of having engineering experience, but I've done enough of these workups and been in enough discovery and inspections and seeing these engineers do what they do. I kind of have a sense of what's important and what's not important.
Yeah.
And that's the way I approach it. So I would suggest that if you do this type of work and you're going out, you're doing field work, keep in the back of your mind that this could lead potentially to animation later on, and what is important for that, and making sure that you're documenting that early on. I think that's probably the angle to take there, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
As many pictures as you could, take.
In context, though, you got to tell the story.
Yes, in context. Take the lens off first, all that.
Don't take a picture of the bird up in the tree because it's pretty, right? Don't do that.
Right, but yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say, think about how this would look in the end, right? Yeah. You don't want holes in your investigation, so try to gather as much information as possible, and then if you think that an animation might be appropriate, as soon as you get to that point, align yourselves with a group like ours, and we can, even advise on what type of pictures and imagery would be best for the visualization. We're happy to consult on that stuff too.
Yeah, you can really, hedge it to your advantage if you understand that, collecting these points are going to give you a better work product, and it's going to make the attorney call you again and do all that stuff. And a lot of times, like, one of the challenges we have is, as field investigators going out there, is they don't know who the responsible parties are yet. They don't know what type of insurance coverage is there yet. So they don't want to send the engineer out right away because that's a big ticket item, or they don't want to hire the animator right away because they don't know if there's a budget behind it there. But if you can collect the data points that'll make it happen later on, you're now part of the team, right? You want to be part of the team.
Absolutely. And, you're right. I mean, that's an excellent point. The great thing about technology is, we can use historical imagery too, like sources like Google and things like that. Even if we're just trying to map out just a preliminary first look of the scene, we could always use that as well. So there's a solution somewhere, we just got to collaborate and put our heads together. Yeah.
It used to be there was a service where they would go out and fly a plane over a particular area if you wanted to get aerials.
Oh, nice.
A buddy of mine rented a helicopter once, just to go up and it was a big case. The attorney was willing to pay for it. And he's got a picture of himself, like a skyline of Manhattan, just hanging out the side of a helicopter with his camera.
Very nice.
I was like, did you really need to do that? Or did you just want the photo to put up in your office?
Matt, he really needed to do that.
He really needed to do it, right? I'm like, you had your harness on, right? It was good.
Right. Yeah.
Well, Bree, we're going to wind down here. This was really, really awesome. Thank you so much for coming on and just, teaching us a little bit about what this is, and just understanding that it's there, it's available. We should be trying to upsell it and make it a part of our toolbox of services that are available. So how do folks get a hold of you if they have any questions?
Yeah, so you can give us a call. We're also on social media, LinkedIn, Instagram.
Sure.
Got a great looking website. So yeah.
I hope
all
so.
The normal channels. Right. Yeah.
There better be movement on your site.
Yeah.
If it's just some site you got a problem. Someone's got to get fired.
Yeah, exactly. No, our landing page will just take you in. But yeah, we're around. Give us a call, give us a shout, and we're happy to help.
Great. And we'll have your contact information in the show notes. So everybody, thanks for tuning in. This was a very informative, great episode. Thank you again, Bree. And we'll catch everybody next week on the next episode.
Thank you.
What a great tool that is available for accident reconstruction. Make sure you reach out to Bree and her team if you need assistance. We want to thank her for coming on and teaching us about this. We'd also like to thank Crosstracks, Redline Forensics, Scope Now, PI Institute of Education, and NCISS for sponsoring the show. Please support these great supporters. Now, have you thought about joining Investigator's Toolbox? Now's the time to get on board and join the fastest growing digital community for investigative professionals. Just use code PIP 2018-36 to save 10% on membership. If you have a question or a comment about the show, email Matt at matthews@satellitepi.com. You can also find him on LinkedIn, Instagram, and Facebook. We want your feedback to bring you the best shows possible. And we'll be back next week with a new show, so make sure you tune in and stay safe out there.